Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Careers at the End of the World. It's me, Jen, your host and founder of Work Wonders Careers. This is going to be the closest I get to like a hot take, although I just think about it as real talk, like a reminder. I get questions a lot when I'm working with clients like, do I think the hiring process is broken? Am I being kicked out of the applicant pool by robots? And I know why people come to those conclusions and ask those questions, because my LinkedIn feed is like constantly full of people making these claims that the hiring process is broken. Nobody gets a chance. Recruiters and hiring managers, hiring stakeholders are not willing to take the time to see what people have potential for, to not kind of extrapolate from people's experiences and see them differently. People are making quick decisions. People are looking for a square peg to put in a square peg hole. They're not being imaginative. I've often actually said that people are being unimaginative in this market because that's what's happening. So I just wanted to remind listeners who might be consuming this content and feeling this kind of way that the hiring process is absolutely working perfectly fine for the people doing the hiring. And that process is actually designed for them. And I have often said, not on this podcast, but I've often said to clients and in office hours, the hiring process doesn't exist and work doesn't exist for your self-actualization. I see so many job seekers spending so much time and quite frankly talking in such a public way about how much they hate recruiters and how recruiters don't take the time to read and imagine. Like, it's not their job. Recruiters are not career coaches. And if they are, that's a separate thing that they do in another aspect of their job. They're not looking to career coach you into a job that's a reach or a stretch or a pivot or a transition for you. That's just literally not what their job is. It's not their job to do that. I know that's really hard to hear. It is our job to make their job easier if what you want is another job. And that's why I'm constantly saying we need to focus on the pieces of this that we can control. We need to select the right opportunities. And to me, it's actually pretty surprising to see that people think that that is their job, that that is something that they should do. If you think about it, we can't even count on our actual employers to give us promotions or coach us into jobs. People have to fight tooth and nail for stuff like that to happen. So the fact that a stranger or an institution that has no relationship to you is going to put that kind of work in is not likely. It's not impossible, but it's not likely. The hiring process isn't broken. It's working as designed. And it doesn't exist to validate us. It doesn't exist to help us move into a quote unquote dream job. It's there to serve the needs of the employer. I do think that's not a great system that we've got. This wouldn't be my way to set up a world, but this is where we're at. And I worry that people sink a lot of time and energy into editorials about HR that are it's actually about capitalism. It doesn't care if you have your dream job. It doesn't care if you like your work. It definitely doesn't care if you're reasonably compensated for it. So I think we have to kind of search with these things in mind. So is the hiring process broken? No, I don't think it is. I think it's as they say, a feature and not a bug, that some people feel dejected and frustrated and disappointed and left out, quite frankly. That's how it's designed to work. It is hard to make sense of some things that happen in the job search process if you've never worked in recruiting and hiring. Truly, I mean that. Like, I can see how we got to robots are kicking me out of the applicant pool. And I'm not sure that one day that absolutely won't be the case. But it's not the case right now for the vast majority of jobs. And it's also not the case that the hiring process is about bringing you specifically on board. It's about meeting the hiring demands of the employer. And that's going to mean things like they're not going to make investments and recruiters and staff recruiting roles properly, which means that, you might not hear back. Their automation might not be set up to communicate thoroughly. People love to blame that on recruiters, but that's just a lack of resources for recruiting. And a lot of that, I think, is because employers take our labor for granted. Okay, so I think we need to really zoom out on some of our criticisms of recruiters and the hiring process and really put the critique where it belongs, which is employers are not that interested in making sure that there's a good candidate experience, period. And every once in a while, I think it's helpful to just step back and be like, yeah, this is kind of bullshit. So please be kind when you're posting on LinkedIn, because people can see that shit. And also zoom out. Rather than situating yourself solely in an applicant pool that you feel stuck, which is so frustrating, guys. Like I'm not saying don't be mad or have feelings about that experience, but I do ask that you contextualize it and think about what's actually happening here. Is every recruiter just irresponsible and lacks follow-up, or are they completely inundated with the largest applicant pools they've ever seen in their life? Have their colleagues and their own teams been underfunded and probably decimated by layoffs? And remember, they're not your career coach. They're just not. They're not going to help you pivot into a job. Like, you might have a good experience. You might find a really generous one. All of that is possible. I've had those experiences. Many of my clients have had those experiences. But for the most part, that is just simply not why the hiring process exists. So please do zoom out. Please contextualize things properly. Spend your energy wisely. Be mad at the right people. I don't mean to brag, but that is one of my strengths. I think it's because I have a Mars-ruled 7th house. I know who to be mad at, okay? And I'm always looking up. I'm not looking side to side. I'm always looking towards the top. You guys know I'm a big fan of personal power. And one of the ways we can reclaim that in this process is to not allow our energy to be drained by unhelpful narratives or conversations on social media or straight up myths about the hiring process. The hiring process that you are interfacing with is a symptom of the big problems. And that's why I think zooming out and situating this properly is so important. This is just an invitation. Recruiters are busy people. It's not the best paying job in HR. I don't think people realize this. Like, HRBPs, like other HR roles, usually pay better than recruiting roles. And so it's always funny to me that like people love to hate on recruiters and pass a lot of judgment on recruiters. When I'm in an interview process, I'm going to be my recruiter's best friend. I'm going to be their favorite, assuming I like them and it's like we can vibe. Like, I assume they're on my team till I have real strong evidence otherwise. And you just don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. And by on my team, I don't mean helping me navigate this process beyond the realm of their scope of responsibility, but rather like they're running a process. They've got their resources, time, and energy that they have, and they probably have a lot of other things going on. If I don't hear back from a job or a client doesn't hear back from a job, we just keep going. We just keep going. There's a lot going on in people's lives. There's a lot going on in the world. I promise you, it's not a recruiter's fault that you're struggling. It's part of a bigger picture here of resources not being invested, because ultimately a lot of workers are seen as disposable. Feel free to send me a DM on LinkedIn if you're listening. I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty sure LinkedIn is where I'm going to be hanging out the most from here on out. Meta might be on my last nerve. So find me on LinkedIn. I haven't made any decisions as of yet, but find me on LinkedIn. Let me know your thoughts on this. I have just started posting over in the Networking at the End of the World LinkedIn group, which is available for our email subscribers and former clients. I feel like I'm often a bottleneck in trying to connect you all to one another. And it would really help me to have you all in one place where I could simply tag you when I need you and want to connect you to other cool folks. So find me over there on Networking at the End of the World. We'd love to have you, and take good care of yourself. It's going to be a whirlwind of a few weeks. I'm recording this Friday, January 17th. So I expect this will be the most sane Friday we'll have for the next few years. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening and speaking with me about all these things. Take care.